Have you ever woken up one day and suddenly realized that your life is no longer shaped by big decisions, but by small, invisible choices you barely notice? The way you reach for your phone before your eyes fully open. The way you sigh before starting your day. The way you promise yourself you will change only to repeat the exact same routine tomorrow. And the scariest part is this: your life doesn't fall apart all at once. It quietly drifts, one tiny decision at a time. Not because you chose failure, but because you never noticed your habits choosing for you. If that realization makes your heart tighten a little, if it feels uncomfortably true, then stay with me, because today you are about to understand something that most people never wake up to. Your habits are not small. They are not background noise. They are not things you do. They are building you every day, every hour, every repetition. And whether you know it or not, they are deciding the direction of your entire life. Welcome to Tomorrow Better Version. Thank you for being here, because what we are about to talk about is not just self-help, not just psychology, but the quiet architecture of your destiny. Let's begin with a simple, unsettling truth. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And your system is simply the collection of habits you repeat when no one is watching. Think about it. Two people may have the same dream: to be healthy, to succeed in their career, to be calm, to be disciplined, to be someone they are proud of. But only one of them becomes that person. Why? Not because they were luckier, not because they were smarter, but because one of them built the habits that aligned with their identity, while the other kept relying on motivation, emotion, excitement, and wishful thinking. Habits are the invisible force separating intention from reality. James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, explains it beautifully. Small habits compound. Your actions are votes for the type of person you wish to become. Every choice, no matter how tiny, creates an internal shift. When you brush your teeth, you cast a vote for being a person who cares about health. When you read one page, you cast a vote for being a learner. When you meditate for 2 minutes, you cast a vote for being someone who is calm and intentional. And when you choose not to act, that too is a vote. The truth is uncomfortable, but liberating at the same time. Your habits are shaping your identity, and your identity is shaping your habits in a loop that determines the trajectory of your life. But why are habits so powerful? Why do these small behaviors hold more influence than the biggest dreams? Because your brain does not care about inspiration. It cares about efficiency. It is constantly seeking shortcuts, patterns, and routines to save energy. That means once something becomes automatic, it becomes your destiny, unless you interrupt it consciously. This is the real reason why people fail to change. Not because they lack willpower, but because they try to fight systems that already run on autopilot. They set goals without transforming the habits that support those goals. Your habits are not a reflection of your goals. They are a reflection of your identity. Who you believe you are all wins over what you wish you could be. So let me ask you something deeply personal. What do your habits say about you right now? Not who you hope to be, but who you have been choosing to be every single day. Do your habits say you value your health? Do they say you are disciplined? Do they say you are calm, focused, driven, curious? Or do they quietly whisper the opposite? The painful truth is that many people spend their lives wishing for a different outcome while repeating the habits of the person they no longer want to be. But here's the miracle. Identity is not fixed. You become the kind of person you repeatedly act like. A reader is someone who reads. A fit person is someone who moves their body. A confident person is someone who acts despite fear. A kind person is someone who chooses empathy. You don't wait to become these identities. You build them one small habit at a time. That is the heartbeat of Atomic Habits. And that is why today's message matters. Because when you understand the power of habits, you understand the power to rewrite your life. And here's the most empowering truth. Your future is not decided by a single transformation. It is decided by the quiet consistency of the small things you repeat daily. Your habits are the DNA of your life. They form the blueprint of who you are becoming. They are the seeds of everything you will achieve or fail to achieve. This is why so many people remain stuck. They think success requires massive action. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect burst of motivation. But transformation begins in the smallest possible action, the one so easy you cannot say no to it. One push-up, one paragraph, one deep breath, 1 minute of meditation, one walk, one choice. Because repeated long enough, the smallest atomic habit creates an identity powerful enough to reshape your entire destiny. So if you are here right now listening to this, there is something inside you that already knows change is possible, something that wants to become better, calmer, stronger, more aligned, more disciplined, more proud of the person you are becoming. Trust that voice. It is the beginning of your transformation. Before we continue, if this message resonates with you or simply makes you feel seen, please take a moment to subscribe to Tomorrow Better Version. Your support helps this channel grow and gives us the motivation to create more meaningful content for you. Now, I'd love to hear your reflection. Here's a simple question. If your life today is shaped 90% by your habits, which truth feels more accurate for you? A, my habits are building the person I want to become. B, my habits are pulling me away from the person I want to be. Comment A or B below. Your answer may reveal more about your life than you think. If habits are the small bricks that build your life, then identity is the unseen blueprint that decides the shape of the house. Most people try to change their habits while holding on to an identity that contradicts the person they want to become. They work hard on the external, but the internal architecture never shifts. And because identity always beats motivation, they eventually return to who they believe themselves to be. This is why true transformation begins not with a new routine, but with a new story about who you are. James Clear offers a powerful truth. The ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. When you no longer say, I'm trying to meditate, but I am a calm person. When you no longer say, I'm trying to write, but I am a writer. When your behavior is an expression of who you believe you are, effort becomes natural. Resistance fades. Discipline becomes almost effortless because your actions are simply an extension of your identity. But how do you build this identity? How do you shift the story you tell yourself? Clear gives us a beautifully simple framework. Change your identity by changing your votes. Each action is a vote for the type of person you want to become. You do not need perfection. You only need enough votes to tip the scale. This means transformation is not sudden. It is accumulated. It is collected through the smallest, most ordinary choices. When you read one page, even if you read nothing else, that single page is a vote. I am a reader. When you choose water instead of soda, that moment is a vote. I am someone who takes care of my body. When you show up early, even once, that is a vote. I am responsible. These tiny votes seem insignificant, but identity is not built through intensity. It is built through repetition. Identity is not a fixed label. It is a sculpture revealed one small chip at a time. Every habit, no matter how small, is a stroke of the chisel. And with every stroke, you reveal a clearer version of who you could be. This means the most liberating truth is also the simplest. You are not stuck. You are not defined by your past. You are not obligated to continue a story that no longer serves you. But here's the difficult part. Old identities cling to us. Even identities that hurt us often feel safe because they are familiar. Telling yourself, I'm lazy, I always procrastinate, or I never finish anything may limit you, but it also protects you from the discomfort of stepping into something unfamiliar. Change threatens the ego. Even positive change can feel like a loss. That's why identity shift requires courage. It requires grieving the old version of yourself. Not because that version was bad, but because you are choosing something better. And the moment you allow yourself to imagine a new identity, even if you do not fully believe it yet, the process of transformation begins. Clear reminds us that many identities are simply stories we have repeated until they hardened into belief. But a story is not truth, it is a choice. And the beauty of habits is that they give you the power to rewrite that story through action. Every time you meditate, you reinforce the story, I am peaceful. Every time you exercise, you reinforce I am strong. Every time you show up even poorly, you reinforce I am consistent. The story follows the behavior, not the other way around. And identity does not transform in isolation. It requires a system. Identity without a system is just a wish. A system without identity feels forced and fake. But when identity and system merge, they create a feedback loop that sustains change. Identity gives direction. System gives proof. This is why goals often fail. Goals point toward the future. Systems operate in the present, and identity anchors both. You become the kind of person who doesn't just hope for change, you embody it. Think of someone who wants to become healthy. If their identity is still, I am someone who hates exercise, no workout plan will survive. But if their identity shifts to, I am the kind of person who does not miss workouts, even small actions reinforce the new truth. They don't need motivation. They simply act like the person they believe they are. Identity change is the deepest form of growth because once your identity shifts, behavior naturally follows. You no longer fight against yourself. You rise to meet the story you have chosen. So let me ask you something important. What identity have you been carrying for years without questioning it? Who told you that you're disorganized? Who convinced you that you're not creative? Who made you believe that you can't be disciplined? You can choose a new identity at any moment, and you can begin proving it with the smallest possible actions. Because the person you become is not defined by what you did once. It is defined by what you repeat. And every repetition is another line in the story of who you are creating. Identity shapes habits. Habits shape identity. And together, they shape destiny. If identity is the foundation of transformation, then the 4 laws of behavior change are the tools that help you build the life that identity deserves. James Clear often reminds us, you do not need more motivation, you need a better system. And this system, distilled through years of research and human observation, rests on 4 elegant principles. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. Together, they form a loop that reshapes behavior from the inside out. Imagine trying to change your life without understanding these forces. You rely on willpower, fight your urges, and blame yourself every time you slip. You think you're the problem, but Clear shows us a liberating truth. Your environment, your cues, your routines, and your rewards shape far more of your behavior than your discipline ever will. Change becomes easier when you understand the mechanics behind it. The first law, make it obvious, begins with awareness. You cannot change a habit that you do not notice. Many of our behaviors run on autopilot, triggered by cues so subtle we rarely recognize them. The phone notification that pulls your attention, the snack on the counter that whispers your name, the bed that invites you to scroll instead of sleep. Clear teaches that the fastest way to reshape your habits is to reshape the cues around you. If you want to read more, leave a book on your pillow. If you want to drink more water, place a glass in every room. If you want to stop checking your phone, charge it in another space. You don't fight your impulses. You structure your environment so that the right behaviors happen almost effortlessly. But noticing is not enough. To build habits that last, they must become desirable. This is where the second law, make it attractive, enters. Human behavior is driven by desire, the craving behind the action. You don't just want to exercise, you want the feeling after. You don't just want to study, you want the confidence it brings. You don't just want to save money, you want the security of having enough. Clear shows that temptation bundling, pairing something you want with something you need, is a simple but powerful tool. Listen to your favorite music only when you run. Enjoy your favorite drink only while studying. Reserve your best podcasts for cleaning. When your brain associates the habit with pleasure, resistance melts away. Then comes the third law, make it easy, which may be the most counterintuitive of all. We think success comes from effort, pushing ourselves harder, forcing discipline. But Clear shows the opposite is true. The easier a habit is, the more likely it will stick. Reduce friction. Prepare your environment the night before. Break habits into 2-minute versions. Instead of read a book every day, begin with read 1 page. Instead of go to the gym, begin with put on your workout shoes. Instead of eat healthy, begin with prepare 1 fruit. The magic of this approach is that small actions lower the psychological barrier. Once you start, momentum does the rest. A habit that takes less than 2 minutes might seem insignificant, but it is the doorway to a new identity. And finally, the fourth law, make it satisfying, closes the loop. Human beings repeat what feels rewarding. This is biology. A habit without satisfaction will never survive the long term. If the brain doesn't experience a sense of completion, joy, or pride, the habit becomes a chore. Clear suggests using immediate rewards to reinforce long-term goals. Track your progress visually. Celebrate consistency. Use habit streaks. Enjoy the feeling of checking something off. Give yourself permission to feel proud. When the reward is short-term, the habit becomes self-reinforcing. You keep going because it feels good to keep going. But the 4 laws are not just tools for building good habits. They are also the blueprint for dismantling bad ones. Clear flips each law to reveal its inversion. Make it invisible, make it unattractive, make it difficult, make it unsatisfying. If you want to scroll less, remove apps from your home screen. If you want to eat less sugar, store it out of sight. If you want to spend less, freeze your credit cards in a drawer. When the cues are hidden, the cravings weakened, the action harder, and the reward removed, the habit dissolves. What makes this system profound is its simplicity. It doesn't rely on heroic willpower or dramatic lifestyle overhauls. It works quietly, gently, like water shaping stone. It acknowledges that humans follow the path of least resistance, and instead of fighting that truth, it uses it. Rather than trying to be stronger than your impulses, you train your environment, your systems, and your rewards to work on your behalf. And when you combine the 4 laws with identity-based habits, the effect becomes transformative. Your environment reflects who you want to be. Your cravings align with your values. Your actions become effortless. Your rewards reinforce your story. This creates a loop where each habit strengthens the identity and the identity strengthens the habit. This is the architecture of lasting change, not intensity, not perfection, design. The 4 laws are not merely strategies, they are the quiet engineers of a different life. When applied consistently, they pull you gently toward a future where good habits are the default, not the struggle. They shape a world where discipline feels natural, where progress feels inevitable, and where you look back and realize you've become someone you once only dreamed of being. By the time we reach this stage of Atomic Habits, James Clear invites us to look inward, not at our schedules, our environments, or our routines, but at the invisible currents beneath our actions. If the 4 laws guide what we do, then our emotions and beliefs shape why we do it. Real lasting change is not just a shift in behavior. It is a shift in the emotional landscape that drives those behaviors. And this is where the deepest transformation begins. Every habit sits on top of an emotion. We avoid tasks not because they are hard, but because they make us feel inadequate. We procrastinate not because we are lazy, but because we fear failure. We cling to comfort not because we lack ambition, but because uncertainty feels threatening. Clear reminds us that behavior is never just logical. It is emotional circuitry disguised as action. To change your habits, you must first understand the emotions that trigger them. Think about the habits you struggle with the most. Perhaps you keep checking your phone because it gives you a momentary escape from stress. Maybe you overwork because achievement temporarily fills a hole of self-worth. Or you keep avoiding healthy routines because they remind you of every time you tried and failed. In each case, the root problem isn't the habit. It's the unresolved emotion beneath it. And until you address that layer, change will always feel like a battle you're fighting with yourself. Clear doesn't use the language of therapy or spirituality, but his message echoes something ancient. Healing is part of habit formation. When you forgive yourself for past failures, you free your mind to try again. When you release shame around your weaknesses, you stop using habits to numb yourself. And when you soften the emotional charge behind your patterns, you reclaim control over them. Belief is the next layer. Throughout the book, Clear shows that beliefs act like invisible scripts running your life. If you believe you're someone who always gives up, you will. If you believe you're disorganized, you won't try to create systems. If you believe you're not the type to exercise, you'll avoid situations that challenge that story. Beliefs become boundaries. They fence you in long before the world ever does. But the beauty of beliefs is that they are malleable. They change when you give them new evidence. Every time you meditate, you reinforce the belief that you are becoming calm. Every time you write, you reinforce the belief that you are a storyteller. Every time you choose one healthy meal, you reinforce the belief that you care about your body. Transformation doesn't arrive in a dramatic revelation. It arrives quietly, one reinforced belief at a time. Healing enters naturally into this process. Many of us carry emotional scars from childhood, failure, relationships, or even the pressure to meet expectations. Those wounds often shape our habits without our awareness. A fear of disappointing others becomes overwork. A fear of not being enough becomes perfectionism. A fear of being judged becomes avoidance. Clear teaches us that habits are also a way to rewrite the emotional patterns of our lives, not by suppressing them, but by replacing them with better associations. This is where the power of small wins becomes profound. When you succeed in tiny steps, you heal the part of you that believes change is impossible. When you stay consistent for just 1 week, you soothe the part of you that feels unreliable. When you show yourself compassion after a mistake, you break the cycle of self-punishment that leads to relapse. Habits can be tiny acts of emotional repair, rituals of self-respect, evidence that you are becoming someone worthy of your own trust. Clear also emphasizes the relationship between emotion and reward. A habit becomes satisfying not because the action itself is exciting, but because of how it makes you feel about yourself. You feel capable, aligned, grounded, or proud, and those feelings deepen your identity. They tell your nervous system, "This is me." That emotional anchoring is what makes habits stick long after the initial motivation fades. On the other hand, negative emotions can distort habits. Shame keeps you quiet about your struggles, fear keeps you stuck in old patterns, guilt convinces you to give up entirely. That's why healing is not optional. It is the emotional scaffolding of transformation. Without emotional clarity, habits collapse under the weight of unaddressed pain. Clear offers a powerful notion. Every habit casts a vote, not just for who you want to be, but for how you want to feel. Do you want to feel in control or chaotic, calm or overwhelmed, worthy or ashamed, hopeful or defeated? Habits are not just routines. They are emotional choices disguised as actions. When you choose a habit that aligns with peace, your life becomes peaceful. When you choose a habit that aligns with strength, your life becomes stronger. When you choose a habit that aligns with healing, your life becomes whole. This is why transformation always begins within, because no matter how perfect your environment or how optimized your routine, if your inner world is fragmented, your habits will reflect the cracks. But when your emotions settle, your beliefs expand, and your wounds begin to close, habits stop being a struggle. They become expressions of a healthier self. Clear shows us the quiet truth. Healing yourself is a form of habit building, and building habits is a form of healing yourself. Both happen one small, gentle choice at a time. There comes a moment in James Clear's philosophy where the idea of habits widens. It stops being only about routines, systems, or identity. It becomes something larger, something almost existential. He leads us to see that habits are not just tools to improve your days. They are the quiet architects of your entire life. Not through dramatic transformation, not through sudden breakthroughs, but through the subtle, quiet weight of repetition. Clear wants us to understand something simple yet deeply unsettling. Every action you repeat is shaping the trajectory of who you will eventually become. You may not notice it today. You may not feel the shift next week. But direction, not speed, determines destiny. A tiny shift repeated enough times becomes a completely different endpoint years later. This is where the real power of Atomic Habits reveals itself. While earlier chapters focused on identity, systems, and behavior mechanics, this part pushes us to zoom out, to see how those micro choices ripple into our long-term future. A small habit, repeated daily, doesn't just create a result, it creates a person. Clear explains it gently. If you repeat the habits of a healthy person, you eventually become healthy. If you repeat the habits of a mindful person, you eventually become grounded. If you repeat the habits of someone disciplined, eventually discipline becomes part of your nature, not something you force. And if you repeat the habits of someone who constantly escapes, numbs, avoids, or procrastinates, then that identity, bit by bit, settles into your bones as well. This is why he calls habits the compounding interest of self-improvement. because the math of habits doesn't feel dramatic in the moment, but it becomes dramatic over time. A 1% shift today looks invisible, but compounded for months and years, that shift becomes the difference between a life that moves forward and a life that drifts quietly off course. What Clear wants us to see is that destiny isn't a sudden event. Destiny is accumulated. It is shaped in the moments when no one is watching, in the small decisions you dismiss as doesn't matter today, in the little votes you cast for the type of person you believe yourself to be. And what makes this chapter so grounding is that Clear doesn't speak with pressure or judgment. He doesn't demand perfection. He simply says every action is a vote. Some votes are small, some are big, but they add up. Even one honest conversation is a vote for courage. One act of generosity is a vote for kindness. One page read is a vote for intelligence. One mindful breath is a vote for presence. One small step toward your craft is a vote for growth. These votes accumulate quietly. They do not need applause. They simply need consistency. There is also another subtle truth Clear introduces. You don't need every vote to be perfect. You don't need to win 100% of the time. You just need enough repetitions to tilt the balance of your identity. Enough to make your new path feel more natural than the old one. And this moment, when the new path feels easier than the old, is when habits stop being effort and transform into destiny. He gives an example that feels almost invisible. A person who chooses to meditate for 1 minute might not feel like their life is changing, but if they continue, that 1 minute becomes 2. 2 minutes become 5. 5 minutes becomes stillness. And one day they look back and realize they don't react the way they used to. They don't get overwhelmed the way they used to. They have shaped a calmer destiny through tiny, repeated choices. The same is true for creativity, for learning, for discipline, for emotional control, for relationships. Almost everything meaningful in life bends to the force of repetition. Clear also makes a crucial point. Destiny is not determined by talent, opportunity, or luck nearly as much as it is determined by habits. Talent opens the door, but habits keep you walking through it. Opportunity offers a moment, but habits decide whether you're ready for it. Luck may spark change, but habits sustain it. Habits are the invisible hands consistently steering you toward a future, even when you're not paying attention. And perhaps the most hopeful idea here is this. Because habits shape your destiny, you can begin shaping your destiny at any moment. You don't have to wait for a new year, a perfect plan, or the right motivation. Identity is fluid. Trajectory is changeable. Destiny is moldable, and all of it begins with the smallest, most ordinary step taken today. Clear's message in this section is not dramatic. It's not loud. It's steady, calm, and deeply empowering. Your life is not defined by one choice. It is defined by the countless small choices you repeat until they become who you are. And if habits build destiny, then every small action you repeat today is quietly building the person you will meet years from now. So the real question isn't how big is your goal? The real question is, what direction are you repeating? Because whatever you repeat becomes your future. As we come to the end of this journey through Atomic Habits, the message that lingers is not one of pressure, but of possibility. Clear has shown us that change is not a dramatic revolution, nor a massive leap, nor a sudden spark of motivation. Change is quiet. Change is subtle. Change is built in the shadows of ordinary days, where no applause is heard and no milestones are celebrated. Yet those moments, those tiny votes we cast for the person we want to become, eventually rise and gather into something monumental. Your future is shaped not by what you dream of someday, but by what you repeat today. The beauty of this philosophy is how deeply human it is. It doesn't demand perfection, discipline without fail, or superhuman motivation. It recognizes that we slip, we forget, we get overwhelmed, we fall back into old stories. But it reminds us that identity is not a cage. It's a sculpture, and sculptures are shaped slowly. Every small choice smooths the edges. Every repetition sharpens the details. Every day, you carve a little more of the person you hope to meet. The power of habits lies not only in their ability to change our external world, but in how they shift our inner world. A single page read is not only knowledge gained, it is evidence that you are a reader. 1 minute of stillness is not only calm, it is proof that you can choose peace. A small act of kindness is not only a gesture, It is a reminder that compassion lives within you. When you embrace these tiny steps, you begin to trust yourself more. You begin to see that growth is not a miracle reserved for the chosen. It's a possibility available to anyone willing to take the next small step. So let this be your takeaway. Your life does not change when you force it, or when you chase perfection, or when you wait for the right moment. Your life changes when you make small decisions today that your future self will thank you for. You don't need to transform everything. You just need to begin. One push-up, one mindful breath, one page, one moment of honesty, one step toward the identity you quietly know you're capable of becoming. The lesson is simple. Small habits become big results because they gradually become you. And the way to apply this starting today is to choose one habit that aligns with the person you want to be, make it tiny, make it easy, and repeat it daily. Don't focus on perfection, focus on direction. Your habits are already building your destiny. Now choose the direction you want them to take you. Before you go, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What is one small habit you're willing to begin today that your future self will thank you for? Please share your answer in the comments so others can be inspired by your perspective. And if this video brought you value, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your support gives us the motivation to keep creating deeper, more meaningful content for you. Thank you for being here, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.